Looks like we got us a maniac on the loose, Sheriff. Good evening, folks, and welcome to the Horror Corner. I'm your host, Sean Patrick Erschen, and this week we are doing another movie review. This is Friday the 13th, Part 5, A New Beginning. That's right, folks, the black sheep of the Friday the 13th franchise. Now, in a lot of ways, this is like the typical standard Friday the 13th film. However, they do change the setting. The film takes place, for the majority of it, at Pinehurst Halfway House instead of Camp Crystal Lake, which we saw in the past few movies. And the reason for that is young Tommy Jarvis returns. And what happens is he's very traumatized by the events of the previous film, the final chapter, in his dealing with Jason Voorhees. We saw him go nuts at the end, hacking Jason up with a machete, going crazy. And the good thing is they did get Corey Feldman to return. He does make a cameo in the beginning, playing young Tommy Jarvis. And he has a dream where Jason is brought back to life by some idiot grave diggers. They thought it was fun to dig up Jason for some reason. And Jason gets up and he's about to hack Tommy Jarvis with a machete, and that's where it cuts to present day. And we see Tommy wake up, he's sweating. Tommy Jarvis, by the way, is played this time by John Shepherd, and he's a lot older. He's an adult now. And he's being transported to the Pinehurst facility. So he wakes up in a sweat and freaking out, because he had a horrible nightmare. And the thing about Tommy, as I said, he's very traumatized by the events of the final chapter, and because of that, he doesn't really talk much. He's very secluded. He's very much, very shy, and he doesn't talk too much because he's so traumatized of the events of the final chapter. Now, I think John Shepherd does a fine job. A lot of people don't like his performance because they felt like he didn't put enough into the character. Because a lot of the characters that are in this movie, the actors didn't know that they were in a Friday the 13th movie, which is kind of funny. Like, I guess it had a stage name and it was nothing to do with Friday the 13th. They didn't realize that they were in a Friday the 13th movie, and John Shepherd, I guess, wasn't very happy about that. But at any rate, I think he does a fine job. And he probably portrays the character of Tommy Jarvis as he would be, through the events of Part 4. But yeah, so the film, we meet up with this group of young teens who are having a lot of mental issues. So now this facility, the Halfway House, isn't like an insane asylum or anything. This is a healthy alternative to an insane asylum, These people aren't completely bonkers, really. At least most of them aren't. They're like troubled teens, Like we saw in Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3, Dream Warriors, They just had some mental issues that they're dealing with. In a constructive environment, they're pretty much free to do what they want, They can go outside and raise hell, But of course they have their rules and regulations they have to follow. But the basic premise of Pinehurst is to prepare them to go back out into the world, back out into society, and function as normal, and deal with their mental stress and issues. So a lot of the characters aren't very well fleshed out. We don't get into their backstories at all, really, other than their personalities, their outward personalities, which is a lot of the fun part of this film, is some of these characters have, like, crazy over-the-top personalities. We see the local old lady, Ethel, played by Carol Locatrell. She's hilarious. She's like, think of the biggest hick you can possibly think of, the biggest hillbilly trailer park people, her and her son, who's like this dim-witted dude who rides a motorcycle and doesn't know much about anything. It's so hilarious, but so she goes to the Pinehurst place to warn them, I caught your I caught your couple messing around on my property having sex, and they ought to be arrested. And she talks to the sheriff there, and apparently they did get arrested. And then the other dude, her son, speaks out and like, yeah, you tell him, Mom. And she's like, shut the fuck up. This lady's hilarious. And later on you see her making this stew or whatever, and she yells at him, you big dildo, eat your fucking slop. Some of the characters in this are hilarious, like Violet, she's like this goth girl with this blonde and black hair mixed and wears black clothes all the time. And you see her doing this funky robot dance in the middle. It's so 80s. This movie is very 80s. That's for sure. But I think it's a lot of fun. I enjoy some of the characters. And you also have the young kid Reggie, as played by Shavar Ross in the film, who really doesn't play that much of a role. I mean, all he is his grandfather works for the facility as a cook, and there's really not a lot of reason for him to be there except being like the comic relief and being like kind of taking the place of young Tommy Jarvis in a way. But I think he does a great job. He's a lot of fun. Like I said, some of these characters aren't very well fleshed out. You have Debbie Sue Voorhees, who plays the character of Tina, who I don't see much of a reason for her to be at this facility. She just seems like a normal person, but other than being maybe promiscuous, I don't know. She likes to have sex in the middle of the woods with young men. That's the only reason I can see. Some of them seem very normal. I don't know why they don't seem like they have mental issues. I don't know why they're in this place. But as I said, they don't get into the background of these characters very much. But I will say there are a lot of memorable kills. Now, as far as the kills in this movie, there's a lot of kills. This has to be the highest body count, probably, of any of the Friday the 13th films. We see the killer taking off people left and right. Probably every couple minutes you see a death scene. There's got to be at least 20 deaths in this film. And there are a lot of memorable ones. You see the sequence with Debbie Sue Voorhees with the garden shears to the face, takes her eyes right out. You know, it's nasty. And then her boyfriend gets tied to the tree with a belt, and the dude puts some kind of metal rod and twists it around, and it crushes his skull. It's nasty. And then you see that dim-witted dude on his motorbike, and he gets hacked with the hatchet. Whoosh, right? Lops his head right off. Nasty. And then you see one guy get an axe to the back of the head. Nasty. And there's also a lot of gratuitous nudity in this film, I noticed. And Friday the 13th is known for that, but in this film they kind of take it to the extreme. There's a lot of gratuitous nudity. You see at one point this girl's looking at herself in the mirror, she's like, it's showtime! You know? And then you see the one scene with the girl in the middle of the woods, buck naked. It's almost like borderline softcore porn in a way. And apparently the director, Danny Steinmann, actually did work on a porno, you know? So it's no surprise. And there's also a major twist in the film, you know, and that's why it ranks very low in a lot of people's ranking of the Friday the 13th franchise, because of the major plot twist. Now, we are going to get into some spoilers in this review. This film was back in 1985, I believe, so come on. We are going to talk some spoilers, and that is the fact that the killer is shown not to be Jason. And so what happens in the film is Tommy has visions of Jason. He has these nightmares where he keeps seeing Jason in his dreams, and it's really freaking him out, messing with his head. But that just turns out to be a dream. The real Jason is not in this movie. It's someone else. It's an imposter. So yeah, a lot of people get frustrated and pissed off at that fact. I mean, this movie is a Friday the 13th film in every way. The killer is dressed as Jason with the hockey mask and all, the machete, the whole gear, all the outfit. But it's not Jason Voorhees. It's actually, spoiler alert, Roy Burns. Now, who is Roy Burns, you might ask? He's just this random paramedic dude. But it's funny, when you watch back at the film, it's really noticeable, the scene where you can tell that it's him, because there's a lot of exposition in that scene. So we first meet Roy, and Roy's only in the in like 2 scenes. He gets like a minute of screen time, maybe less. But he's a paramedic, and he's sent there to pick up this dead body. Now what happened was, one of the teens at the facility pissed this guy off, and the guy's not all there, so he got hacked with an axe to the back, you know. So that kid got killed because he was really annoying, he was really pissing the guy off, and he got what was coming to him. So Roy Burns then shows up there at the scene of the crime, and you can see he's really affected by it, because they show him the body and what happened to the kid. He's all hacked up with the axe in his back, and you know, and you can see it really affects him, and it's like painfully obvious. He's got this expression, and he looks up, like he looks at the body, and then he looks up, and he's like got this evil look in his face. It's almost like a Scooby-Doo episode in a lot of ways, when they unmask the dude at the end, you know. It's funny, it is like a Scooby-Doo episode. But yeah, the guy's only in the movie like less than a minute, probably. So it's just kind of funny that it's kind of the ending is very it's a head scratcher, that's for sure, you know. It's a head scratcher. It's like, come on, they couldn't come up with anything better than that. At least they could have fleshed out Roy's character a lot more. He could have been a character that was more important to the story, not just some cameo, you know, like throwaway character. And that's what he is, really. You only see him twice, and the other scene is like a totally throwaway scene. It's just that one scene where you can see he has this expression, because apparently that kid was his son, as it turns out. Of course, we don't find that out to the very end. But the third act of the film is pretty intense. You got some great chase scenes, you got some nasty deaths, and the film is shot very well. Now the final girl, Melanie Kinnaman, who plays Pam Roberts, she's the director of Pinehurst. She's not a very memorable character at all, not a very good final girl. I'd say she ranks very low when it comes to final girls in the Friday the 13th franchise. She's not very memorable. However, a lot of the characters are memorable, especially Ethel. I love her character. She's so funny. And there's a lot of funny characters, and I do like Tommy Jarvis in the film, as played by John Shepherd. So this film has a lot going for it. I enjoy it. I think it's a lot of fun, and I think you guys should give it a chance. It's very underrated, I think. So guys, give Friday the 13th Part 5, A New Beginning, a chance. I know it is the black sheep of the franchise, but I think you'll find it very enjoyable, and it does hold up surprisingly well to this day. It's a lot of fun, and it's a cheesy 80s slasher that we can all enjoy. Grab your popcorn, grab your date, and just have a blast. And check out Friday the 13th Part 5, A New Beginning. And I'm your host, Sean Patrick Erschen. Thank you for joining me at the Horror Corner. Tune in and stay scared.